Hello everyone and welcome to The Peel, the television show under SAYWHAT, and today we are discussing about the child marriage scourge, which have taken center stage in all the discourses that are on social media, in the newspapers, on television and on radio. And recently we have heard the story of Anna Machaya, initially reported to as Memory Machaya, who died while giving birth at an apostolic sect shrine in Bocha, Mutare. And to just take on and sustain this conversation, we are joined by Honourable Dr. Ruth Labode, the Health Committee Parliamentary Chairperson, to take this conversation forward. Honourable, I want to welcome you to SAYWHAT and welcome to The Peel, the program that delves into topical sexual and reproductive health issues. And we just want to start by looking at the inauguration or the introduction of the proposal of the new marriage bill. Can you just take us through what really inspired the new marriage bill? We understand that it's under construction right now.
The new marriage bill is not under construction. It's almost completed. Mm-hmm. What really inspired it are the issues around marriages, unregistered marriages, civil associations, and child marriages in particular. So it was found that something needed to be, a law needed to be put in specifically dealing, outlawing the child marriages. This is how we got where we are.
And when was the conversation around this bill, or when was it proposed? It
was proposed a year and a half ago.
A year and a half ago.
Yes.
And why is it taking long for it to be finalized and come into existence?
Yeah, two things have delayed it. One, it has been having a challenge. It passed through the National Assembly, but we had a challenge in the Senate where the chiefs felt that, because part of the things the marriage law was doing, the community outlawed the lobola. They made it like, they said there was no need for lobola. So the chiefs then fought the bill in the Senate. So it meant that the bill had to come back to the National Assembly and then we send it back. But another issue also was a lockdown. The parliament was closed. We opened hardly maybe a month or two ago.
Mm-hmm. So it's because of COVID. That's why it has taken
and the battle we had in the Senate.
And when should we expect it now? Because
I think because of this Anna Machaya story, mm-hmm. politically, it has raised dust. So I'm sure the chiefs will be called to order and made to take a step, because once it has passed through Senate, it doesn't take a week or two for the president to assent, because everything else was accepted, mm-hmm. except that.
But how significant is the new marriage bill in directly dealing with child marriages? Can we bank on it? Can we have hope on it?
It's very significant on paper, because it specifically in, I think, clause 3, if it's not 33, I think, in clause 3 it specifically says age of marriage is 18. And it outlaws child marriages, which covers it also says it outlaws child marriages even in the traditional setup. And it punishes the parent if they are consented on behalf of the child. So it's a nice document, but our problem will be implementing it or enforcing it.
Okay.
Because I know what has been happening. Some of these child marriages have to do with poverty, religion, and all sorts of things. And people can even hide and say, look, I've impregnated your daughter, here is money, I'll take her to my house, I'll marry her. And if nobody's told, they say the girl went to her uncle when the girl actually is married. That is very rampant. So the issue is, I think as a nation, if you ask me, it's a dialogue which we should hold. It will go beyond a law. The commitment must come from the churches, the politicians, because also politicians, sometimes we we throw a blind eye towards these things because we want votes. And that is wrong, especially in the case of the Marange, these apostolic things. They push votes because they are like a cult. When they decide they are going left, you can't turn them right. So people tend to pander to them, but now we cannot continue.
You are raising very pertinent key issues there. The issue of the political factor and that the document is nice on paper. So you as Parliament, where do you come in? What is your intervention in terms of that the bill is really implemented? Because this scourge has been going on for decades. And surely there must be a stop with this.
As Parliament, our role, the only role, we have played the role. We have put a law in place. Our second law is to ensure that we monitor those who are supposed to ensure that the law takes place. But most importantly is to educate our communities, our constituencies, to say, report some of these things. We actually don't have power other than that.
What about the political factor that you are raising? What is it about?
No, we will talk about it in Parliament. That we will. That one is very easy. You see, the feathers that have been ruffled by the Anna Machaya. Now people are issuing statements. This minister issuing a statement, but we know 1 in 3 girls below the age of 18 is married. Bless her soul, Anna Machaya. She has raised something from the dead and brought it to the political agenda. Now this is why everybody is talking about it. That's why I believe that this thing has always been political. Now it forced everybody because the civil society came out, churches came out and said something must be done. The nation rose because her case was so gruesome. The person who took pictures on her WhatsApp did a very good job. But if you go to all these rural clinics, delivery centers, girls who are delivering at 13, 14, 15. But if you ask a Zimbabwean pastor, they'll tell you, no, girls are not having sex. They are having sex.
Ministers are making statements after statements. Civil society are making statements after statement. Is this enough to stop the scourge? That's the question.
I think the arrest of the Machaya husband is a wake-up call for the Marange community, that they're not immune. They can be arrested. And it's the whole thing. It's not until you arrest the whole of Zimbabwe that thieves will know they can be arrested. You need to target a few people and make them examples.
Let's put things into perspective. Mm-hmm. Is the Marange case the only case when you are looking at the child marriages problem in the country? No,
it's just a tip of the iceberg. It's just that it is community to target. This thing is so rampant, it's amazing. The Minister of SMEs, as way back as February, reported that 5,000 girls in primary school had gotten pregnant. It's the same age as Anna Machaya. So, and she did not offer us any solution. She just came to report to Parliament. And that was not Marange, that was all over Zimbabwe. This issue is all over Zimbabwe, it is happening, and we need to deal with it.
In the issue of pregnancies and so on, now let's juxtapose that with your proposal to the government, which was shot down for the young people to have access to sexual and reproductive health services without parental or guardian consent. What would you say now with the teenage pregnancies, the Marange case, and so on, and your proposal to have these young people just access sexual and reproductive health services being shut down now? What's the plan? What are you putting in place?
All I can say is, first of all, we said so. A lot of the child marriages, they don't start just, maybe in the Marange situation is different, they get you married. But a lot in other places, a girl gets pregnant, and then the father does what these stoners call kutizira or something. Is that so? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that automatically becomes a marriage. A girl gets pregnant and then runs away with a guy because she can't stay at home. Pregnancy forces you to take the wrong decision, or you decide to terminate the pregnancy and terminate your life yourself. Mm-hmm. So that's why we were talking of access to sexual reproductive health. It won't stop child marriages, but it will reduce them. Definitely. Because if I'm not pregnant, no parent of mine will chase me out. If I'm not pregnant, I can say no to a wrong marriage. But once I'm pregnant, I have no leeway. I must go to a marriage, because as it is, my parents are poor. So why the report came to Parliament, the Minister of Health shut it down, but he shut it down in such a manner that he left room for further engagement, because he kept on saying something that though happening is illegal. He kept on saying, if you went to family planning services and you are 14 and asked for contraceptives, you'll be given, which is true. But how do you, as SAYWHAT and other civil society organizations, go out there publicly to mobilize or propagate for educate children to say, go and, if you are sexual active, go and get family planning. You can't do that because Mtema was Kudaro. But it's true that if you go to family planning or if you go to National AIDS Council and say, I want to be tested, and they'll test you. They are doing it because out of their own judgment. And the minister said it in Parliament. And that's why I said, I want minister to answer that, do we now have the right to go out there, either organize a nice table at a shopping mall on a weekend, of course now it's COVID, it's a problematic, and talk about these things to young people. Is that a possibility? But legally it's not.
While we are still on that note, can we just try to bring a reconciliation between what the law says in terms of those who can consent to sexual activity and the age of marriage? What happens if a 16-year-old child consents to sex and get pregnant, and then the law says this same child can't get married, can't consent to marriage? Can you just bring reconciliation in terms of how this law is problematic?
Look, a 16-year-old gets pregnant, the law says arrest the men. But half the time, the girl might have met a combi driver who, when he hears there's this issue, goes into South Africa or goes somewhere else and disappears. The girl child remains to suffer. A journalist called me 3 weeks ago and said, have you heard of a 16-year-old who gave birth and killed the child? I said, yes, I know, and she's just been arrested. But I hope the Zimbabwe lawyers for human rights will defend her, because we did not give her a choice. We didn't allow her to stop that pregnancy. It's evident she didn't want to get pregnant. Yes, but she had sex. She got pregnant, and maybe she was afraid to abort, so she decided, and she did that. And now we are turning around trying to blame her. She should be defended, that girl, in court, because the situation, the environment doesn't allow her to protect herself when she already is sexual active. We are not saying go take contraceptives or condoms and distribute them to schools like confetti. No. We are saying those who are sexual active, if they come to the public institution and they say, please deal with them, don't chase them. Because it means it's too late. It's too late for us to do anything. The only solution is then try and prevent the bad outcomes of a situation. So I don't see the only reconciliation we can do. For me, what I believe is our only solution is to first of all allow young people to access, strengthen to access health services, sexual reproductive health services, and then strengthen the monitoring or the enforcement of the child marriage law. Make sure they have been outlawed, but we must make sure that it happens. How do we do that? Communities must get involved. Funding must put into community dialogue over these issues.
But the problem that I am having personally is just to appreciate why a 16-year-old can be granted the right to consent to sex. At the same time, that 16-year-old cannot be granted the right to marriage. What should happen then? Should the parents bear the burden of keeping the child who is pregnant?
In the new marriage bill, that one has not been put. But the Constitution says actually the age of consent for sex should also go to 18. That proposal has come.
Okay.
So it's being moved to 18. While we are moving everything to 18, we know these girls are having sex as early as 13. It's also and the next time to stand up at 21. But it's not true. Already as we are sitting here, we are saying 1 in 3 girls under the age of 18 are married. So whom are we covering here? Whom are we talking about? We know that not every child is unruly. I was told when I was in Weza, during the stage we were collecting data from the public, they said, Musakangano kuti kune mapengo evana. Then kune vana who are living on their own, diaspora children. Kune vana varombo. Kune nherera zapinda sex work at the age of 12. There is a huge critical mass of children that need to be looked after.
Honourable, I'm asking you this, but I will really need to understand the approach as Parliament that you're going to take.
Yes.
Because recently the husband, maybe I can use those words.
Yes.
The husband who impregnated the Anama child was charged as having had sexual intercourse with a minor.
Yes.
And that there was no marriage certificate.
Yes.
To say that the two were married, but they were staying together.
Yeah.
So this is the problem of the law that I want you to explain to our viewers. And how, as Parliament, how are you coming in to address this issue? Because someone can just say, no, we're just staying.
No, but you had sex with her. That's why she's pregnant.
Yeah, but we're not married.
So we are not charging for marriage here because the marriage has not been assented. The marriage bill. But we are charging you using the criminal law. We have 2 laws. We have the criminal codification, which actually says you can be, for sleeping with an under 16, you can be arrested. That's what that man has been arrested for. It's not about child marriage. Okay. No, he's being charged with his sleeping with a minor. Not kutwaka garana imbai.
But looking at how, even if the police can arrest people and so on, what form of deterring measures can be really put in place that we can think of as Parliament, apart from statements, making noise and so forth, advocates and so on?
It's what I told you. Arrest the victims. Those who are unfortunate. If people are arrested, they will stop this thing, I'm telling you. It will reduce drastically. Exactly what has happened now. Next time a man in the Marange culture sees a 14-year-old, they will think twice. Because the reason why we know about Anna is because she dead. As if she had given birth normal, nobody will be talking about it. And the Marange people are unfortunate because they want to do my deliverance, my shrine wow. But the other provinces, they take to the hospital. So a 13-year-old has a seizure. So there's no death, and then nobody does. Even the hospital, the government hospital does not do anything. They will deliver a 13-year-old and they just leave it like that. They will not even report the case. They are afraid to report my police. Who got you pregnant? Next time the other children will not come. They will go and deliver Kumba. So they just deliver you and send you home. And that is not helping us.
But looking at the statistics, would you say COVID-19 has contributed to the cases to sharply rise? And so on?
Yeah, I believe it has. It has contributed drastically because these are young, they're teenagers. You lock them up in Zvarasek and say, don't move out of Zvarasek. They do what we call in Machiavelli and jump on fence. Go to the next door boy, they play, they do whatever they are doing. There was a boy in Machiavelli and we impregnated 2 of his sisters who are less than 16. Because their mother used to leave them there, sneak out to go and look for food. And they got bored, they ended up doing the unpermissible. Also, because of lockdown, one time we ran out of contraceptives, especially as people could not move, get through the traffic control post where the movement was being controlled. If you said you want contraceptives, they will say, so you couldn't say. And the police would ask you in a queue, why you want to put it out. So that also contributed to not only teenage pregnancies, but to mothered pregnancies also.
But COVID seems like it's still with us.
Yes, it is. But now I think we changed the way we do things. A lot of clinics now in in the Maroccains, animal contraceptives. We learned from the first phase. That was a problem. But the social, the recreation, Yema youth is very bad when they're not in school.
Okay.
That was our challenge. We pray today, as the cabinet meets, that they will remove some of these. They will allow the kids to go back to school, allow intercity travel. They must allow some activity of some kind.
Let's look at the young people themselves being involved in these advocates' discourses to say no to child marriages, no to sex, perhaps, if you have not attained a certain age group. What role, what form of way can they be roped into these campaigns?
I think there are a lot of organizations working. For government, I think it's asking too much. Maybe the churches can play a role. Government doesn't have the structure to do that, but civil society organizations, different ones, can actually do it. In their interfacing with youth, if that point is put straight, but even if you give information to the youth, if the same youth, after you have told them that if you are having a boyfriend, go and get contraceptives, it's a problem. You have achieved nothing. So as we give information, we must ensure that we deal with the issue of access.
And what form of language can they understand? Is that the young people?
No, we need to use both. We have the salad, they call them the masaladas. They must be spoken to in English. If you are in Matabele, use Ndebele. If you are in Mashona, use Shona. When we were doing the budget and we got to Wangi, I was surprised the number of youth, the youth outnumbered the adults in that meeting, the budget meeting. And all they were talking about was access. They were actually saying government should put money for us to access SRA services. And they even went on to say we need to access them for free because we're not working.
And what are the detrimentals, especially for the girl child? The issue of child marriages and so on. What are the detriments?
Child marriage means that the life of the girl is finished. You are likely, if you are married especially, you're likely to stop going to school. We know right now there is a law, the Comprehensive Sexual Education, which incorporated that a child can be retained in school. But that can't happen once you have gotten married. Once you are married, you are out of school, your life is finished. At such a tender age, you find yourself with 4 or 5 kids, maybe your husband dies tomorrow, you are a widow. Your life comes to a stop, to a standstill. That's it.
And what kind of mental implications, mental health implications that come with child marriage issues?
If I'm to talk of mental issues, an average African woman is very resilient. But however, just the mere fact that you are now married somewhere and your own colleagues are going to school, they are playing, they are jumping up and down, can affect you. Definitely you can be affected. It's just that maybe a lot of the child marriages, the girls come from poor families. Then you are eating well, you are happier. You are a child, but you are now being abused, but you are happier than where you are coming from. So it's a two-way traffic. But definitely, when that child looks at her life, she can easily commit suicide. Easily. There are the types of people who can commit suicide or kill their own children and leave or burn the whole house.
Is there any kind of proposal that you are having in mind to cater for that constituency of the girls who might suffer child marriages, to just make sure they have got a psychosocial support? Is there anything that is in your mind as Parliament?
No, it's not our responsibility. We are legislators, but Minister Anyoni already told us there's a program which has started. It started also in Majuland East, where they're giving support to social support and income generation project, because that's the ministry which has been, the SME, which has been given money.
Let me ask you on a personal level, what form of support do you think they can be given on a personal level?
Counseling and finance, so that even though you are married or you're out of the marriage, you must now being given an opportunity to go back to school if you want to. If you don't want being given an option maybe to join a cooperative and start generating a little money, feel like a human being again. That's what I would propose.
Okay. And then lastly, behavior-wise, what is your message to the young people? Sometimes it's not out of pressure that they get into these marriages at an stage. What behavior-wise, or what's your message to them?
A lot of girls who actually get into marriages in Marange, they are virgins. So what behavior to tell them? In Marange, they are virgins actually. You cannot be married in that church, you see virgin. Oh yes. That's why they pick them at 14 church. They are virgins. But if we talk to the rest of the Zimbabwe, that's another story. What I can say to our girls is that the world is waiting for you out there. Just endure. I know sometimes things are tough at home, and you may feel the pressure when your mother says, go and sell this pocket of sweets, put it on a roof or something like that, and you decide, you meet some guy who says, I'll give you $10 for sex. You think, let me just go and have sex with this man and then go home with the sweets. No, that's not the right thing to do. Continue with your school. Things may be tough, but tomorrow will be better.
But you mentioned something very important about this Mapo story, loving the virgins.
Yes.
Is there any scientific benefit, health benefit of some sort? What are the perceptions?
It's a typical African thing that even in the past, when our mothers were growing up, you could not get married if you were not virgin. At least it's in Tunyuan.
Okay.
It's because they breed, they are like a community. So every child, a mother is actually assessed by having brought up a virgin. And you get more money as a lower.
Okay. And Honourable, it was wonderful speaking to you and addressing all those issues. Maybe your parting shots to our viewers.
I'll just say, Zimbabweans, we have an epidemic of teenage pregnancies and teenage marriages. We need various strategies to deal with them. There is no one solution. The law alone will not do it. We can outlaw these child marriages, but the child marriages will come because they come from a teenager getting pregnant. When you are pregnant and your parents are poor, you are likely to actually agree to a marriage with a man or a boy you actually never intended to marry. So parents, what I'm saying is that we need to have a law, but we ourselves have a role to play. The access to contraceptives or access to sexual reproductive health has a role to play. We need all strategies. We are at war. We have to go to war with these pregnancies to stop partly stop marriages. And also the government, I urge them to deal very seriously with the Marange community, to arrest whoever is in that position. To whoever tries to marry a girl and it leaks, let them be arrested. Criminalize just like the Anna Machaya husband or Anna Machaya rapist, whatever you want to call him.
There you have it, viewers, from Honourable Labode. The scourge of child marriages is taken Zimbabwe by a storm, and this thing has been ongoing for decades, I can say that. But however, there is hope from the new marriage bill, which is on the horizon, and we can expect it anytime, Honourable.
Yes.
And we hope that it's going to mitigate, it's going to lower, it's going to minimize the child marriages pandemic in the country. Thank you for watching, and thank you for following the Peel. Please like our Facebook page, Say What, and follow us on Twitter at Say What, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Say What Zimbabwe.